All right, everybody, 360 in the house. Welcome to another weekly market review with 360. This video is sponsored by 4cmediaco.com, the best in global financial news, including crypto and breaking events. So make sure you follow them on Twitter so you stay up to date with all the hottest news in crypto and global markets. So we're doing these videos, YouTube videos weekly, these market review videos weekly. So make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications so that when these posts, you automatically get alerted and you're pretty much ready to go. So you can stay in touch with what's happening weekly. But right now we have Bitcoin up. We're going to talk about what's going on, what's been going on. This is a 6-month massive conglomerate. Taking the form, and the predominating form is a descending channel. And that's why we have the upper and the lower, the upper resistance level, the lower support level. And then we have the median, which slices right between. So basically the median, when you have this type of market structure, the median is basically a level where price tends to swivel back and forth across, and that is called the fair value, or basically the agreed upon market price by both buyers and sellers within the presiding or the predominant channel. That could be ascending, it could be horizontal, it could be descending. In this case, it's descending. And in this case, that's even more bullish. If this entire pattern was ascending, I'd be a lot more skeptical and a lot more inclined to say that the market's probably it's probably a top for the market and it's probably gonna pull back. But it's not. This is actually descending. So what's happened here is we have this lower set of descending lows where the liquidity from the previous one is never taken out. So when we hit this high never comes up and grabs any of this liquidity. And then you can say the same about this one. This one never comes and gets any liquidity from these two, and so on and so forth. And you can see we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then finally a lower one that's not layered. So what does that mean? That means there's billions of dollars up here in orders, billions of dollars of liquidity up here. That is just not how tops occur or happen. Okay, if you look at any of the previous cycle tops, you'll notice that liquidity is removed by whales and institutions on pumps before tanking and bringing price back down. It could be anywhere in here, okay? But they're going to grab that liquidity, and then they're going to create just enough FOMO on these drives up, and then massive dumping would occur in these consecutive highs, because that would be distribution. So distribution occurs on these false pumps towards the highs, and then massive selling would come back in. The problem is we don't have that here. All right, so I've broken down the volume into two different categories. Even though we have one descending channel, we really have two different things going on here. So I'm going to draw your attention to the first half. Let me draw your attention to the first half, and that's from here to here. Yeah. From this high to this low. This is where most of your profit taking is occurring. And you can see the big volume here. And of course, it is descending. It descends all the way up to this low. All right, so why is that? Well, because Bitcoin ran well over 100% in this leg, achieving its old all-time high from the previous cycle plus a little bit more. All right, so yes, technically it set a new high, but it's really just dealing with that old resistance area. So this is normal to have a lot of profit taking there. That's normal. So this little area right here is where almost all of your selling, the majority of your spot selling occurred. And that's called profit taking. And that's normal, okay? But immediately, and you can see it clearly, the volume profile then changes. It changes drastically dramatically. So now the last half, all right, so this almost levels off. The entire last half is what I consider consolidation or reaccumulation. How do we know it's not distribution? Well, because there's no massive selling at the bottom. Even the biggest red that you see at the bottom here, even the biggest ones, they're actually occurring at the lows, not at the highs, indicating that much of this, and you can see these wicks down here, much of these wicks, there's buying going on there, okay? So you can't say this is mass dumping, even on these red bars. That's just not the case because it's happening at the lows. If this was distribution, these would be false pumps up, and you would see massive selling, massive amounts, but it's not there. You would see distributive amount of volume like this, right here. This kind of stuff. You would see that stuff into each of these peaks. It's not there. Why? Because it's not distribution. It's not. It just isn't. And so people look at these patterns and they think, well, it's all toppy. Okay, toppy doesn't necessarily mean that you have an end of cycle distribution going on, which is characterized by a lot of different things that you can actually see on the chart. Those things don't exist here. This was a global liquidity event that occurred across all markets, and it was liquidity, it was leverage. So you can't even say, oh, look at all the mass spot dumping here. This was a leverage liquidity wipeout that occurred across the entire planet. Every market got one of these, not just crypto. So this is not crypto-centric, all right? So now I want to draw your attention to what's going on here because now we have a change happening. Something we haven't seen anywhere else here. We now have price pinching. Yep. Because we have, for the first time ever, we might have our first higher low. Here's that liquidity event, liquid low on that wick, off a major structured demand. But when price got rejected up here and created a lower high, it then created a lower low. Again, but right at the channel bottom here. So the channel bottom, even after this here, you can see price closes back inside the channel. The channel owns the price of Bitcoin very nicely. Very nicely. And now we have this ascension here connecting the lows and this descension connecting the highs for the first time ever. So we already know there's all kinds of liquidity up here. Billions up here. But now there's liquidity starting around 65 as well. Yeah, around 65. So what are we happening here? So we're building a coil or a price pinch, price squeeze. Eventually, I think we see this break this median, break this dissension. Yes. And then bears are going to be in trouble because the next break of this median probably then holds up as support here. This is probably going to hold up as support. Price is then going to start looking at these external liquidity areas. Now, this one's low enough away from these where we may not have that cascade effect because this is like TNT dynamite. I think once this liquidity gets taken, I think price is going to just take all of this. Potentially setting up a TNT dynamite mad explosion into the 80Ks. I kid you not. That's how powerful this is. That's how much money's up here. I think once this liquidity gets removed, price probably finds some resistance up here, but I think it holds up here. I think it holds a higher support. So I think we get something like come up, grab this liquidity, come up here, find some resistance, and then I'm going to just use this one. And then bang. And this would just be a domino effect here. Again, this still has room down here to mess around. And by the way, we already know this is FOMC week. Matter of fact, tomorrow they're going to drop the rates, probably 0.25. But there's room in here for Bitcoin to continue to price pinch, okay? But in my view, I think eventually this breaks. This level here breaks, grabs this liquidity here, finds some resistance at the upside, and then finally from a higher low, an even higher low, smashes through here, grabs this liquidity, and off she goes. How long is that going to take? I don't know. But that's my view. That's what I think is coming. I do believe the low is in. I do think that the low is in. And I think we are literally preparing. By the way, across all markets, stock markets, legacy markets, charts look mega bullish and ready to run again. That includes the Dow, the S&P, the NASDAQ has a gap higher up. Gold just made a new all-time high. Oh, by the way, the Dow Jones made a new all-time high yesterday. So I think we're seeing these leaders, the Dow Jones, gold, which has continued to lead markets. I think they're giving us a hint on what is coming, and that is higher prices. Yes, sir. But for now, watch, wait. I would be very cautious with leverage and margin until we get through the FOMC on Wednesday. Hope you loved it. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to set your notifications. Until next time, baby, here comes the boom.